I moved into my new apartment a few weeks ago. I thought it was perfect for me. It was quiet, cozy, and a good place to focus on my graphic design work. I wanted to dive into my art and put my breakup behind me. But soon after settling in, I felt something was off. On my first night alone, I heard tapping, like someone was knocking softly on the wall next to my bedroom. I figured it was just the plumbing or maybe a neighbor rearranging furniture. I didn't think much of it, but I felt uneasy. I tried to stay focused on my work, but I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. Days passed, and things got weirder. The tapping turned into loud thumps that sounded like they were coming from behind the wall. They happened at odd hours, and I began to dread nighttime. Once, I saw shadows moving through the peephole. When I opened the door, no one was there. I thought I was just imagining things. One evening, when I walked into the living room, the noises started again. This time, the thumps felt more urgent. I wanted to laugh it off, but it was strange. I felt a chill run down my spine. My heart raced, and I stood still, holding my breath. I listened closely, trying to understand what was happening. Maybe it was just a neighbor. I hoped so, but doubt crept in. As I stood there, I heard laughter echoing through the walls. It didn't sound normal, it was unsettling, like someone was mocking me. I felt cold, like ice was flowing through my veins. I wasn't sure if I should check the hallway or stay inside. I peeked through the peephole, but there was nothing. Just an empty corridor. "It's all in your head," I whispered to myself. Then one night, while I was working late, I heard something new. A whisper. I couldn't place it. Curiosity pulled me towards the door, like something was calling me to open it. I stood there, my hand hovering over the knob, and my heart pounded in my chest. I thought it might help make sense of it all. But what if it just made things worse? I finally shook my head and tried to walk away. That's when I heard the voice clearly, "Everything is fine." But it didn't feel fine at all. Panic welled up inside me as the laughter erupted again. This time, it was louder and seemed to come from everywhere. I felt trapped in my own apartment, and I didn't know what to do. The laughter continued, and I could almost feel it inside me. It was mocking and sinister. I tried to convince myself that I was overreacting, but my heart wouldn't stop racing. I asked myself, what did I get myself into? I wanted to scream, but I was frozen. I now knew this was not just my imagination. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. I needed a distraction. I couldn't keep listening to the laughter and the thumping. I grabbed my laptop and decided to go to the coffee shop down the street. Maybe a change of scenery would bring clarity. I packed my bag and hurried out, locking the door behind me. Just being outside felt like a relief. At the coffee shop, I ordered a latte and settled into a corner booth. I tried to focus on my designs, but every time I looked up, my mind drifted back to the apartment. What was going on? I glanced around the shop, making sure nothing was strange there. It felt good to be surrounded by people, but after a couple of hours, my anxiety pulled me back home. I needed to face whatever was lurking in my apartment. When I stepped inside, the house was eerily silent. I half expected the laughter to start again as soon as I closed the door. But it didn't. Just a heavy stillness wafted around me. I locked the door and moved to the living room, scanning the walls, waiting for the rattling to begin. Nothing happened. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was all in my head. I plopped down on the couch and took a deep breath, trying to dive back into my work. It was quiet, too quiet. But as I focused on my designs, that silence made me uneasy. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on my lap. It was a message from my old friend, Sarah. "Hey, just checking in on you. How's South, the new place?" I hesitated before typing back. I wanted to tell her everything, but I also didn't want to sound crazy. I settled for a simple, "It's good." Just getting used to the space. Before she could respond, I heard its soft tapping, like someone was lightly knocking from the other side of the wall. My heart dropped. It started as a soft rhythm, creating an almost musical quality, but it sent a chill racing through me. I held my breath and listened closely. As the tapping grew louder, it transformed into what felt like a conversation. I could almost make out words, but they slipped away the moment I tried to focus on them. My hands trembled, and I could feel the sweat bead on my forehead. "Stop it," I muttered to myself, but the sound didn't decrease. I got up and peeked through the peephole once more, but the corridor was empty. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. "Just go back to work," I whispered, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. In a moment of impulsivity, I decided to check the storage closet down the hall. It was just a small space filled with cleaning supplies and old furniture, but I had this nagging urge to look. I opened the door, and the musty smell hit me. I stepped inside, and that's when I saw it. A small, dusty box pushed back in the corner, covered with cobwebs. I reached for it, my heart pounding. I pulled it out, unsure of what I would find. It felt heavy in my hands, and I held it up to examine it. There was something scratched on the lid, but the light was too dim to read it clearly. I flipped it over, and just as I did, a burst of laughter echoed through my apartment once again. This time, it was unmistakably inside. I dropped the box as panic surged through me. Someone or something was here. I needed to get out. I turned quickly to run, but then everything went dark. I woke up on the floor, heart racing. For a moment, I thought I'd dreamt it all. But the silence had a weight to it, and I could still feel the chill of fear prickling at my skin. I pushed myself to stand, rubbing my temples to clear my mind. The box lay abandoned next to me, untouched but still ominous in the dim light. Gathering my courage, I picked it up again. The cobwebs clung to it like memories I wanted to forget. I brushed them away and glanced around the room, the air thick with tension. The laughter hadn't returned, but the sense of being watched gripped me. I looked at the lid. The scratchings glinted under the flickering light. I could make out a name, or something that looked like it. It was too faint to read clearly. I needed more light. I made my way to the kitchen to grab a flashlight, bracing myself for whatever shadowy creature might still be lurking in my home. Once I flipped the switch on the flashlight, the beam sliced through the darkness, illuminating the small living space. I aimed the light on the box, ignoring the tremors in my hands, and moved closer, heart pounding. There it was, a name. Evelyn. I froze, a chill running down my spine. Was this box hers? Just then, a sharp knock echoed through the apartment. It broke the silence, shattering my focus. I spun around, my breath hitching. The knocking came again, this time louder, more insistent. It was coming from the wall adjacent to the living room, the same wall where Hannah often pressed her ear against to listen to her neighbors. My imagination ran wild, wondering what or who was behind it. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. There was no response, just the relentless pounding. I felt my instincts scream at me to leave. I moved towards the front door, but as soon as I stepped away from the wall, the knocking stopped abruptly. It left an unsettling quiet in its wake that I couldn't shake. Taking a deep breath, I set the flashlight down and placed the box on the couch. I needed to find out what was in it before I lost my nerve. I steadied my hands and pried the lid open. Inside was a jumble of old photographs, faded and worn. They felt like pieces of someone's life. I hesitated, unsure if I should look closer, but curiosity tugged at me. I picked up a photo, the faces in it blurry and lacking context. I glanced back to the corner where I found the box, the shadows there seemed to deepen. I felt my unease returning with a force, an unshakable reminder that I was not alone. Then something moved in my periphery. I turned quickly, but it was just a flicker, a shadow darting across the doorway to my bedroom. My heart raced again. I couldn't tell if my mind was playing tricks or if something real was happening. I had to confront it. I had to know if there was an intruder or just my imagination spiraling out of control. I gripped the flashlight like a weapon and made my way down the narrow hallway, towards the looming darkness of my bedroom. Just as I reached the door, the lights flickered once more. Then they went out completely, plunging me into a darkness so complete it felt suffocating. I opened my mouth, ready to scream, but choked on the words. All I heard was the sound of my own pounding heartbeat until the laughter returned. The laughter swirled around me like smoke, soft yet echoing, taunting me. I stumbled backward, the flashlight beam bouncing erratically across the small walls of my bedroom. Shadows flickered and danced, warping the familiar space. I backed into something solid, the corner of the bed. It jolted me, grounding me for a moment. "Who is there?" I called out, fierce desperation mingling with fear. "Show yourself." My voice trembled, sounding weaker than I intended. The laughter faded, but not entirely. It lingered on the edges of my consciousness, a haunting reminder that I wasn't truly alone. I took a deep breath, my heart racing. The air felt thick, and I could almost taste the fear. Against my better judgment, I turned the flashlight toward the closet. The door stood slightly ajar, almost inviting. With shaking hands, I pushed it open wider. Clothes hung limp, a collection of old shirts and jackets all lifeless. Nothing moved. I exhaled, relief washing over me, but it was short-lived. A fleeting sound, like soft shuffling, made my skin crawl. I pivoted again, scanning the room like it might give up its secrets. Then I saw it, a tiny flash beneath the bed. My heart dropped. I dropped to my knees, the flashlight beam angling down. The light caught a small, weathered book. The spine was cracked, frayed like a memory. Curiosity gnawed at my hesitation. I reached for it, my heart pounding. When I pulled it out, I turned the pages cautiously. The words were faded but legible scratches of a child's handwriting, full of drawings and strange symbols. One of the pictures sent a chill through me, a stick figure standing beside another, larger figure with wild, exaggerated features and a wide smile. Underneath, it simply read, "Evelyn and me." An icy wave swept over me. This was undeniably personal. My hands trembled as I flipped to another page, this time filled with scrawled lines about games played at night. The last entry made my blood run cold. "They must not come out when she is awake." Who was she? Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the fragile silence. I jumped, screeching and dropping the book. The sound had come from the living room. My breath quickened as I scrambled to my feet. I didn't want to go back out there. I wanted to stay hidden, burrowed under the weight of my fear. Yet, like a moth to a flame, I was drawn toward the chaos. With my heart racing, I turned the flashlight back on. The beam quivered as I hesitantly stepped toward the door. As I crossed the threshold, I froze. Memories I couldn't place buzzed around my mind like echoes of laughter tinged with alarm. My instinct screamed at me to run. That's when I saw it. A figure stood in the almost complete darkness of the living room, motionless, just on the edge of the light. I steadied my breath, forcing myself to speak. "Who are you?" I managed to push the words out, though they felt weak. Even at this distance, I could make out the contours of a face, obscured by shadows but unmistakably grinning. An unnerving sweetness to the smile. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the figure faded back into the dark, the laughter echoing through the walls again, making the hairs on my neck stand on end. I didn't know why they were here or what it all meant, but I knew one thing for sure: I was not alone, and I had to find out what was happening before it was too late. I took a shaky step forward, the floor creaking beneath me. The pulse of laughter still echoed in my ears, a reminder that whatever was out there was watching. I couldn't stay in the hallway, trapped between fear and curiosity. I had to know if that shadowy figure was real or if my mind was playing tricks on me. "Hello." I called again, attempting to sound braver than I felt. Silence responded, but that thick tension lingered, like a weight pressing on my chest. I switched the flashlight beam in a wide arc, scouring the living room for any sign of movement. A shattered picture frame lay on the floor, glass pieces glinting in the light. It caught my attention, but I didn't remember knocking it over. I hadn't been in here since yesterday. The thought gave me pause. Why was I suddenly so disoriented? The faint scent of something sweet hit my nose, thick and cloying. It reminded me of cotton candy, but I hadn't had any in ages. A chill ran down my spine. I turned slowly toward the kitchen. The door to it was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning me closer. Against my better judgment, I tiptoed toward the kitchen, breath hitching in my throat. The sweet scent grew stronger with each step. I took a cautious look inside, and my breath caught again. On the table, a single balloon floated lazily, a pastel pink in the dim light. Beside it lay a plate of colorful cupcakes, perfectly frosted with smiley faces. This was absurd. I backed away, bumping into the doorway. Who would leave cupcakes like this, especially after the night I was having? My instinct screamed to get out, to run back to the safety of my room, but the strange urge to investigate clawed at me. Evelyn, I whispered, the name surfacing from some forgotten corner of my mind. Was she the one linked to this madness? Just as I was about to turn away, the balloon shifted as if nudged by an invisible hand. For a second, the soft laughter returned, but this time it had a tone I couldn't decipher, a playful melody mingled with a hint of mischief. In that moment, I realized I had to make a choice, leave now or confront whatever this was head on. I stepped inside the kitchen, the light flickering around me. "Are you here?" I asked, testing the air with a trembling voice. I didn't want the darkness to have the last word. But something pulled my gaze back to the cupcakes. One of them sat closer to the edge of the table, almost invitingly. The little smiley face seemed to taunt me. Before I could overthink, I reached out, my fingers brushing against the frosting. It felt cold and solid, and that when it hit me, how could any of this be real? Then, a sharp crash erupted from behind me, the sound of something heavy toppling. I whirled around, adrenaline surging through my veins. The laughter faded into heavy silence, but a new noise emerged, a quiet humming, almost tender. I had to find out where it was coming from. Clutching the flashlight as if it were my lifeline, I stepped back into the living room and turned toward the source. That's when I noticed I hadn't seen the other door at the far end of the hallway before. The soft glow spilled out from the cracks. Someone was in the house. I hesitated at the doorway, staring at the soft glow. The humming was clearer now, its gentle cadence almost inviting. A part of me wanted to bolt, but the other part was drawn in like a moth to a flame. I needed to know what was happening. I approached the far door, the flashlight trembling in my grip. My heart raced as I reached for the handle, half expecting it to be locked. Instead, it turned easily, creaking wide open to reveal a room that had been shrouded in darkness. As I stepped inside, the hum morphed into a soft melody, childlike and sweet. The space was brightly lit, revealing a playroom filled with toys and games that I recognized from my childhood. Stuffed animals sat in neat rows on shelves, and a giant dollhouse stood in the corner. I remembered playing here once, laughing along with friends. But that warmth felt decades away now. In the center of the room was a small table, draped in a colorful cloth. On it sat a music box, its delicate design glinting under the light. It was open, and the tune played as if beckoning me closer. It felt oddly familiar. The humming wasn't just a sound, it was a memory clawing its way back into my mind. The sweet smell from the kitchen lingered in the air, but now it was mixed with something else, something floral, like cotton candy and blooming roses. I swallowed hard, looking around the room again. White balloons dotted the ceiling, appearing to dance in a breeze I couldn't feel. "Evelyn," I whispered again, trying to tether myself to reality. Was this her doing? I could almost see her silhouette in the corner of my vision, just out of reach. But then I noticed something. A shadow darted across the wall, moving too quickly for me to comprehend. Panic surged. I squinted into the corners, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever had slipped by. "Who is there?" I called, my voice trembling. The humming paused. Silence wrapped around me tightly, my breath echoing loudly in the stillness. I approached the music box, almost against my will. As I leaned closer, I spotted an inscription on the box, a name, Evelyn. A chill shot through me. Was this her music box? But how did it end up here? Questions swirled like a storm in my mind. I reached out, my fingers trembling. I needed to see if it held answers. I was just about to touch it when the door slammed shut behind me. The sound reverberated like thunder, and I spun around, heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Something was here, lurking just beyond the edge of my vision. Suddenly, the lights began to flicker. I blinked, and before I could react, shadows converged around me, pulling tighter and tighter. "No!" I gasped, panic mounting as the room twisted and shifted. And then everything went dark. The darkness was suffocating. I blinked wildly, hoping for the return of light, but nothing changed. It felt like time stretched infinitely in that thick, black void. My heart thudded loudly in my chest, each beat echoing like a warning to my mind. I could hear my breath, rapid and harsh in the silence. Then, a whisper cut through the stillness. "Evelyn." It was faint, almost like a memory fading away. I froze. The sound wasn't coming from me, but it felt familiar, like a long-lost friend. "Where are you?" I yelled, desperation creeping into my voice. "Evelyn." Suddenly, a faint glow flickered, illuminating the edges of the room. I squinted against the light, forcing my eyes to adjust. As the visibility improved, I saw the music box still sitting on its table, the lid now closed. It looked untouched, but the atmosphere felt electric, as if static filled the air. Then I noticed the dolls, realistic and lifelike, now lined all around the room, their eyes staring directly at me. Had they always been there? A wave of unease washed over me as I scanned the walls, feeling as if they were closing in. I took a hesitant step backward, trying to make sense of what was happening. In the corner of the room, I spotted a flicker of movement. My breath caught as I strained to see. A small figure darted between the shelves, out of view, leaving only the faint rustle of fabric behind. "Who is there?" My voice trembled again, each word laced with a mix of fear and curiosity. And then it happened. The lights blared back on, almost blinding me. I shielded my eyes and blinked, trying to focus. When the brightness subsided, a girl stood before me. She was young, no more than 7 or 8, with bright eyes and a smile that twisted my stomach into knots. "Are you here to play?" she asked, her voice light and airy, as if she had just come from a blissful dream. I stared at her, confusion mingling with dread. "Who are you?" I managed to croak out, fully aware of the innocence her appearance conveyed, yet sensing the danger around her. "I'm Evelyn," she said with a tilt of her head. "I missed you." A lump formed in my throat. "Evelyn?" I repeated, incredulity wrapping around the name. "Where have you been?" She giggled, the sound echoing oddly in the air. "Playing, of course. I've been waiting for you to come back." My heart dropped. My mind raced. How was this possible? I glanced back at the music box, now closed tight, and something deep inside me stirred. "I want to leave," I said, my voice shaking. Her expression shifted, clouding with something unreadable. "But the game is just starting." The shadows flickered, creeping back towards me, as if responding to her words. Panic surged once again. I needed to get out of here, but the room felt like it was shrinking. The walls pulsed and distorted, and the laughter of the girl turned into a haunting echo. I darted towards the door, desperation fueling my movements. But as I reached for the handle, I realized it wouldn't budge. It felt solid as stone. "Evelyn, let me go!" I screamed, fear boiling through me. The playful smile faded from her face, replaced with a serious look. "You can't leave yet. Not until you understand." "Understand what?" My mind raced, but before I could answer my own question, the lights flickered again. Shadows warped and twisted, and the room began to tremble once more. Fear clutched my heart as the girl whispered, "Stay with me." And then everything went dark again, wrapping me in an all-consuming silence. Everything felt heavy. I blinked in the dark, my mind racing. I had lost track of time. Suddenly, a small light appeared, dim at first, then brightening slowly. I was in the same room, but it felt different, changed somehow. My eyes darted around. The dolls were still there, but something else had shifted. The music box was now open, the tiny ballerina spinning slowly, seemingly beckoning me to come closer. A chill ran down my spine. I stepped forward, my feet dragging as if the floor was sticky. What was this place really? Just then, I heard a child's giggle, light and mischievous. "Come play with me." Evelyn's voice danced around the corners of the room. I turned quickly to find her, but she was nowhere to be seen. My pulse quickened. I didn't want to play, I wanted to escape. Panic simmered beneath my skin, urging me to run. "Evelyn!" I called, my voice shaky. "Where are you?" But there was no answer. Only the faint echo of my own voice returned. I felt a pull, a strange compulsion to approach the music box. It promised warmth, safety, something I craved in this cold, eerie space. As I got closer, the spinning dancer began to change. Her face morphed, becoming darker, twisted. I stepped back, horrified, just as the lights flickered again. The doll's eyes seemed to glow now, an unsettling array of colors. They felt alive, watching me. In a sudden movement, one of the dolls toppled over, hitting the floor with a soft thud. I jumped at the sound, my heart racing. I knew I had to keep moving, but the door was still barred to me. I grabbed at the handle once more, but it felt even colder now, as if it had absorbed all my fear. "Help me," I whispered, though I wasn't sure who I was pleading to. I turned back, scanning the room for a sign of Evelyn. The shadows seemed thicker now, wrapping themselves around the walls. And then I spotted her. Evelyn stood at the edge of the room, her smile returning but twisted, almost monstrous in its delight. "Don't you like it here?" she asked, stepping closer. "No. I want to leave," I exclaimed, my voice trembling, the fear spilling out. "Then you have to find me first," she sang, almost playfully, before darting into the darkness like a shadow. Instinct kicked in, and I followed her, unsure of what might lurk in that void but desperate for answers. I moved cautiously, feeling my way forward, every creak of the floor beneath me amplifying my anxiety. That's when I saw it, a shimmer of light underneath a door I hadn't noticed before. My heart raced. Was that a way out? I approached, trembling hands reaching for the handle. As I touched the cold metal, my breath caught in my throat. I didn't want to open it, but I had no other choice. I needed to escape whatever game she was playing. Just as I turned the handle, a voice echoed through the room, low and distorted. "You have to choose, Evelyn or freedom." I froze, and the handle slipped from my grip as the darkness swallowed me again, leaving only the chill of night air brushing against my skin. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my ears. The darkness felt thicker, like a heavy fog wrapping around me. I could hear my own breath, quick and shallow, echoing in the silence. Whatever was orchestrating this nightmare was drawing closer, and I had no idea how to confront it. The moment I steadied myself, I noticed movement from the corner of my eye. A shadow darted past against the wall. I turned, squinting into the dimness. There was something there, something small. I couldn't tell if it was Evelyn or just another trick of the light. Then, out of nowhere, the lights flickered wildly. Each flicker seemed to expose the room's secrets for a brief moment. The dolls were now standing in different poses, their faces eerily turned toward me. How had they moved? I took a step back, bumping into the now unfamiliar furniture, the music box still spinning with its sinister dancer inside. Deciding that staying still was not an option, I pressed forward into the dark, keeping my hands on the walls for guidance. Evelyn. My voice trembled as I called out again. There was no reply, only that unsettling giggle echoing back at me. I reached a corner of the room and gasped. There, standing as if pondering its purpose, was an old-fashioned mirror. Its surface was foggy, reflecting distorted images of my own frightened face. Tentatively, I stepped closer, squinting to see if anything might appear beyond my reflection. Suddenly, the glass rippled, like a stone dropped in water, and grotesque shapes emerged. Faces I didn't recognize twisted and morphed within the surface. I stumbled back, feeling a wave of nausea wash over me. What was happening? Then the whisper returned, this time sharper, more defined. You need to be part of the game. I spun to find Evelyn's figure appearing in the fading light. She was closer now, her smile wide but unsettling. The way she looked at me made my skin crawl. What do you mean? What game? I shouted. The fear that had lain dormant surged back, filling every part of me. You're scared, she said, tilting her head as if studying me. It makes it more fun. With that, she began to move, gliding in a way that was both graceful and terrifying, a dance that made her seem less like a girl and more like a creature from nightmares. Behind her, a sound creaked. It was the door, the one I had almost opened. It was swinging open now, revealing another dark corridor beyond. The air was thick with something in energy, a pull that was both inviting and threatening. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my curiosity tethered me. I took a step toward the door instead. I had to see what lay ahead. Could there be another way out? As I crossed the threshold, the air shifted, tightening around me. I glanced back at Evelyn, whose expression had morphed into something almost pleading. Don't leave me, she said softly. Something clenched hard in my chest. Whatever she had become, I could feel the threads of our fates intertwining. I turned to face the new dark before me, heart hammering and thoughts racing. Then, before I could move, a loud crash echoed from behind me, spinning me around. The mirror shattered, the shards flying like glittering knives, and with them, the sharp realization that Evelyn might not be the only one trapped in this nightmare. I rushed forward, and as I did, the door behind me slammed shut, sealing my fate and leaving me with more questions than answers. The world around me twisted and turned. Each step down the corridor sent tremors through my body, and the suffocating darkness pressed in on me like a smothering blanket. I could still feel shards of the mirror flying, and I was terrified of what might follow. Was Evelyn still behind me? Was she trapped too, or was she reveling in this dark game? The corridor stretched farther than I could have imagined, walls shimmering with faint traces of light that pulsed rhythmically, creating an unsettling heartbeat of its own. As I forged ahead, I felt my resolve wane. Little did I know that the further I walked, the closer I spiraled into a labyrinth of terrifying secrets. Then I heard the melody, a soft hum that echoed through the still air. It was a sound I had come to associate with barely contained dread, reminding me of the music box and the innocent, taunting laughter of Evelyn. It guided me forward, even as every instinct told me to turn and flee. I pressed on, following the sound until I came upon a vast room, much larger than the playroom. The space was filled with vintage toys, all illuminated by countless tiny lights strung from the ceiling, twinkling like stars in the night sky. My heart raced at the sight, caught between wonder and fear. It was beautiful, and yet, my gut twisted with a yearning to escape. In the center of the room stood a large wooden table, covered in intricate drawings and fallen pieces that appeared to have been hastily abandoned. Atop it, the music box pulsed softly. I approached cautiously, drawn by the low humming, until I realized the contents of the box had changed. The ballerina was gone. Instead, in its place, lay an assortment of toys and trinkets, dolls with blank expressions, teddy bears with unraveled seams. Each one felt alive with some unseen energy, as if their thoughts pushed against the boundaries of reality. I felt the crawling sensation return, the unshakable awareness that I wasn't alone. "Evelyn!" I called out. My voice echoed eerily, bouncing back unanswered. I felt the weight of her absence in that room, the air thick with a blend of nostalgia and fear. Had she led me here? Did she think I'd play with these ghostly reminders of childhood? Suddenly, the wall to my right shuddered and quaked. Startled, I turned just in time to see one of the giant toy blocks slide aside, revealing a hidden door. Curiosity warred with caution, pulling me toward it despite the pounding of my heart. Without thinking, I dashed toward it, my fingers wrapping around the handle like a lifeline. "Please, let me out," I breathed, twisting it open. The door creaked ominously, but as I stepped through, I found myself in another corridor, this one filled with all the echoes of laughter I had witnessed before. But there was something different this time. As I moved further down, the laughter began to fade, overshadowed by a strange, insistent tapping building in urgency. My skin crawled, I could feel the heat of something far too close behind me, the energy both invigorating and terrifying. Turning back, the light behind me flickered out. Panic surged through my veins as I stumbled forward, desperately trying to push through the door closing behind me. I knew I had to remain forward, but the laughter was returning, louder now, almost mocking. Then I realized the tapping was unrelenting, echoing against the walls, rhythmically shouting your name. My name. "No!" I shouted back, wrapping my arms around my head in an attempt to drown out the noise. It felt like I had stumbled into a horror show, the kind of nightmare where there was no escape. Voices clamored in unison to drown me, to pull me back into their grip. I sprinted down the corridor until I saw a soft light at the end, flickering like a beacon. With every ounce of my strength, I pressed on, the sounds around me fading into the distance. I burst through the last door and into the light with desperation fueling my every move. The room opened up into what appeared to be a garden illuminated by a shimmering glow. Plants crept up the walls, flowers bloomed wildly, and the air filled with fragrant sweetness. But there was too much beauty beneath this veneer. A nagging feeling of dread slithered through me. It was too still. "Evelyn!" I shouted again, my voice trembling. Only silence answered me, hanging heavily in the air like an unsaid truth. As I stepped further into the garden, I saw her, Evelyn, standing amidst the flowers, her back to me. She turned slowly, a smile creeped across her face, but it wasn't warm. It was the smile of a predator, one that belied a darker purpose hidden within a facade of innocence. "Do you want to stay?" she asked, her voice melodic yet chilling. "You can help me play forever." Desperation replaced any trace of fear within me as I took a step back. "No. I don't want to play," I shouted back, heart pounding. A look of disappointment flickered across her face, and with a wink, she twisted her hand. Suddenly, the flowers around me rustled, the tendrils reaching for me, pulling me into a suffocating embrace. "But we have so much fun together," her voice echoed, growing distant. I was yanked from the garden, spiraling back into a dim, silent abyss. The laughter faded into shadows, leaving me floundering in the void with one lingering thought: I was still trapped. And in the echoing silence, I realized that the real game had only just begun.